Imagine losing 10 members of your family and no one being able to give you a hug. You can't touch anyone, you can't comfort them. These two statements were made by Michelle Dines and Ann Purifield, respectively, two epidemiologists at the CDC who spent time in the Kenema district of Sierra Leone. Can you imagine the pain you might feel? This is a personal experience of many today who have been personally affected by the current ravages of Ebola. In the countries of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, the fragility of life is being displayed every day and not much is being able to be done to stop it. Hi, my name is Haley Barfield, and recently I read an editorial in the New York Times titled An Ominous Ebola Forecast. What this editorial discusses is indeed ominous, though I do not believe the editorial argued for enough action to be taken against the current Ebola epidemic plaguing the West African region. Simply providing international aid and ensuring airlines conduct screenings will not suffice the present situation at hand. If the rise in death toll in Western Africa is not enough to alarm the masses, then the death of Thomas Eric Duncan in the United States, along with the infections of others contracted outside of the continent, must wake us up to the fact that Ebola is here and is not slowing down anytime soon. The editorial claims that canceling flights to the nations currently affected by the disease would be a, quote, overreaction so long as travelers are properly screened. This is because there needs to be a way for necessary supplies to reach the victims. While it is vitally important for aid to be able to reach those that need it most, are unrestricted commercial flights really a necessity at this time? Airline employees are hardly trained medical personnel, and trusting them with such a vital role is irresponsible. Despite the need for unrestricted commercial travel to be limited, if not ceased entirely, it is necessary that international aid, including workers and supplies, be allowed to travel. Groups such as Doctors Without Borders and other such organizations are doing incredible work, and their presence is nothing but beneficial. Recent events have shown commercial flights to be a liability to the health and safety of the United States. Duncan, who was traveling from Liberia, would have not been identified through the current screening processes now in place, as he was not displaying any symptoms at the time of arrival, according to the Washington Post. Due to the incubation period of 2 to 21 days stated by Matar and Gonzalez, this means that though not displaying any symptoms and not yet considered contagious, an infected person can still travel worldwide with the virus in their system and begin infecting people even the next day. The editorial states that for Ebola to be combated, supplies need to be given to the brave healthcare workers in Western Africa. These supplies include protective gear, disinfectants, tents, and body bags. While these supplies are incredibly important to be distributed, more evidence is mounting that this will not be enough to protect all healthcare workers. The Associated Press reports that, quote, more than 370 healthcare workers in the West African region have fallen ill or died since the epidemic began earlier this year. Additionally, since 3 supposedly well-protected healthcare workers have been infected outside of the continent, one in Spain and the other 2 in the United States. On October 20th, in an interview with TheBlaze.com, when asked about how the 2 nurses who treated Duncan before his death contracted Ebola, Dr. Thomas Frieden, director of the Center for Disease Control, responded with, quote, "We may never know." If we cannot pinpoint exactly how Ebola is contracted and spread, how can we ever expect to completely eradicate the disease? In 2012, researchers in Canada found Ebola might be communicable across species via air. In this particular investigation, it was spread to monkeys from pigs. The animals resided in the same room but lived in separate cages, meaning they never had direct contact with each other. According to the Center for Disease Control, quote, the ecology of the Ebola viruses remains a mystery, and the natural hosts of the filoviruses remain unknown. The editorial believes the World Health Organization's goal is achievable through identification and isolation. Though, is enough actually being done to put this goal into action? So far, the data is revealing no. So far, the identification efforts have failed. On the date of the editorial, the reported number of deaths was recorded as 1,552, and as of October 12th, nearly 4,500 people have been reported as dead. Now, the actual numbers of death for both time period is expected to be much larger since the majority of infections and deaths go unreported in the region. On the same report, the World Health Organization announced that the mortality rate had risen to 70%. The evidence does not only display no signs of Ebola slowing down anytime soon, but it actually shows incredible growth in a short period of time. This means more pain and more suffering for those living in the region. Orphans are being made daily by this terrible virus. One such example is a story where 11 nurses of 12 died from contacting the disease due to caring for an orphan infant who showed no symptoms at the time. These compassionate women cared for this baby in the nurse's wing as their own child and were given Ebola in exchange for their kindness. This story of sacrifice was presented on the website of NPR. It is time for the international community to join together and provide more than is being done now. The current situation is not improving, signifying we need to step up our efforts. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. If we do not change our behavior, we are only proving our insanity.